Monday was apparently International Press Freedom Day. Our Vice President Kamala Harris sent a little tweet to celebrate that. She posted, "A free press is critical to democracy. On this World Press Freedom Day, we recognize the courage of journalists around the world, and we recommit ourselves to protecting and promoting a free and independent press everywhere." To which Edward Snowden, American hero, had to point out, put this up on the screen, "Oh, by the way, you're seeking a 175-year-long sentence for an internationally award-winning publisher of news, despite protests from the UN, Amnesty International, the ACLU, the world's leading newspapers, and more." To which, of course, he is referring to Julian Assange and the fact that the Biden administration has decided to continue the prosecution of Assange and are seeking his extradition from the UK, a continuation of a Trump administration policy. And it is always worth remembering with this. First of all, it doesn't matter how you feel about Julian Assange and whether you felt he helped your team or the other team or whatever. This is about much bigger principles than this. The fact of the matter is, what he's being prosecuted for has nothing to do with the 2016 election. This goes back to the disclosures under the Bush administration. Yes. Collateral murder, you remember that horrific video that exposed the U.S. military shooting civilians, including some journalists. That's what he is being prosecuted for. Under the Obama administration, they considered but declined prosecuting him because they were worried about the implications for press freedom and did not see how they could draw a clear line here between what Assange did and what journalists, and by the way, ordinary citizens, free speech applies to everyone, not just technical journalists, every day. So they declined to go after him. But Biden so far has continued the Trump administration's prosecution of Julian Assange.
Yeah, and I think people need to understand what he's being prosecuted for is, quote unquote, soliciting classified information. So as Glenn has pointed out actually a lot of times on the show, any journalist, especially people who are national security journalists, they include things in their bio being like, hey, if you're a source and you want to send me classified information, you hit me up on Signal. Or
Ken Klippenstein, go to his Twitter account right now.
Exactly. Or how to use I think it's called a PGP key or something like that, how to use Proton Mail, instructions on how to send classified information. Now, under what the DOJ is prosecuting Assange for, you could technically make a case that those journalists are doing the exact same thing. So then at what point does all of this become setting the standard for which some future administration can decide not about Assange, but about any journalist who has solicited or published classified information? The Pentagon Papers, of course, is the most famous example, but that type of stuff happens all the time. The amount of stuff in the government which is classified is ridiculous, and they do it on purpose, specifically in order to circumvent FOIA and national security law.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what the problem is that when you have that system, and you're going to have leaks, as we should, I think we should have lots more leaks whenever it comes to classified information, then it comes down to the point of, is this going to set a precedent, which is terrible, not just for press freedom, but for the ability of the public to learn what the government is up to? And I would say, I think any reasonable person can look at that precedent and say, you don't have to care about Julian Assange. That's not how the law works. That's not how U.S. jurisprudence works. You just have to say, this is a terrible precedent, and that's it.
I think there's a big difference, too, between Trump was like aggressively, rhetorically, the press is the enemy of the people and whatever. And so Kamala Harris
loved WikiLeaks, but...
Yeah, right. But then they're the ones that ultimately prosecuted Julian Assange. Yeah. So Trump was, let's be clear, Trump was terrible on press freedom. He was not good on these issues. Neither was Obama, by the way, even though he got this one right, whereas Trump and now Biden are getting it wrong. Democrats feel like they can get away with saying, we support the free press. We love that we're committed to protecting journalists and doing their job, while at the same time undertaking the very same bad actions that occurred under the Trump administration, and they think no one's going to notice because they have a different rhetorical style. But at the end of the day, and look, I'm not one to be like Biden and Trump are the same. They're not the same. There's obviously very important and significant differences. On this issue, though, they're identical.
Yeah, no, and I do think they will get away with it, which is that Biden and Kamala both did. I think Biden even had a speech about, it's like, happy Press Freedom Day and all that. The press was like, thank you so much, even though he's probably talked to them.
Well, they baked him cookies,
150. Right? They bake him cookies.
That's what counts for press freedom.
Talk to them like 1/50th less than Trump ever did whenever he was in the White House. Well, it just goes to show that it is all surface level. You just say, press freedom, Jim Acosta gives you a gold star, and you're good to go. And meanwhile, they are continuing the prosecution of Assange.
Yeah, and worse yet, a lot of journalists are calling for active, more censorship. More censorship at their own papers, more censorship of social media, etc. Not a pretty picture. Tomorrow on Rising, Andrew Feldman, Emily Jashinsky are going to be here for Team Rising, plus friend of the show, Washington Post economics reporter Jeff Stein is going to talk to us about what is inside of Biden's latest spending plans. And bigger than me, founder, activist, former political candidate Gary Chambers is going to join us as well. Remember to hit the subscribe button. Don't miss any of our videos. Don't forget to like and share as well. And we'll see you all tomorrow. Have a good one, guys.